This is an introduction to using the if statement in C++. An if statement gives us a branch in a program to allow us to do certain things if a condition is true. So just for example, here is a program that asks the user to enter their age, and then we're declaring a variable named age, and then we're collecting input with the cin statement, which will store their age that they type in into the variable age. So on the next line, let's do the if statement. The word if will always be followed by a condition. And a condition is a comparison within parentheses. And so usually we will compare a variable to a value or a variable to another variable. So let's just compare age. If age, and now we put an operator, and so I'll do greater than or equal to 18. Okay, so now after the condition, do not put a semicolon, because technically this line of code has not yet ended. So and you'll notice in most editors, if you were to press enter right there, it will indent your code right there, because that's telling you that, okay, this line hasn't actually ended. So let's go ahead and just see out, you are old enough to vote. Okay, so in this case, if this condition is true, then it will execute this cout statement right here. If this condition is not true, it will not execute that. So let's see it run. So if I enter 19 or 29 for my age, and it says you are old enough to vote. But if I run it and enter 11, then it did not output anything right there. Okay, so now it's important. Well, before we go into that, now optionally, you can put an else statement after the if. Okay, so again, that's optional, obviously. And so now I can say, otherwise, you are too young to vote, for example. Okay, so a condition always evaluates to either true or false. So if this condition evaluates to true, it's going to do this. If it evaluates to false, it's going to do the line of code after the else statement. Okay, so let's watch it run. And so here, if I enter 15, it will say you are too young to vote. And otherwise, if I enter a bigger number, you are old enough to vote. Okay, so now the operators that we can use are greater than or equal to. Don't put a space there. That's a common error. No space. You can do just a greater than. So in this case, it needs to be 19 or above for it to be true. You can do less than, or you can do less than or equal to. Now, one thing that is often confusing, or is easy to forget, is to do equal to compare for equality. You need to do two equal signs. Okay, let me change this so it makes a little more sense. How about you just reached voting age. Okay, so if age is equal to 18, you just reached voting age. So you can see if I enter 18, you just reach voting age, but if I enter anything else, then it won't do anything. Okay, so this is how we test for equality. Two equal signs. Important to remember that. Because in C++, if you forget and only put a single equal sign, then guess what? It's still going to compile and run, and it's actually now turned into an assignment statement. It's going to change the value of age to equal to 18. Let's watch it run. So if I were to enter 22 right here, or no, let's just enter 15. you just reach voting age. What happened here is it changed the value of age. It set the value to 18 and it evaluated to true. Okay, so we would call that a logic error. Logic error is when it compiles, but the results aren't correct. Okay, so that's why it's important to remember to put two equal signs. Otherwise, again, it changes the value of age. Like this right here does not change the value of age. It just says is age equal to 18. Doesn't change the value. But now one equal sign, no matter what you assign it to, even if you do a negative number, it's going to change the value of age to -5 and evaluate to true. With one exception, if you assign the value of age to equal to 0, then it's going to change the value of age to equal to 0, but it will evaluate to false. So let's see it work. So now, doesn't matter what I enter, it evaluated to false, but it did change the value of age to equal to 0. Okay, I'm just showing you all of these things because they're all possibilities. Now, this is very rare for a programmer to intentionally put a single equal sign in there. Normally, you will do two equal signs to test for equality, but it's not rare to have a single equal sign in there because it's easy to forget. Okay, now the last operator will be a not equal to. And to do not equal to, you do an exclamation point equal. Okay, so that will evaluate to true. What can I put right here? If it's not you didn't just reach voting age, how about that? If it's not equal to 18. So now if I enter anything like 5, you didn't just reach voting age. Or if I enter a bigger number, you didn't just enter voting age, reach voting age. But if I enter 18, then it didn't output anything because in that case, this was false right here. Okay, so that's not equal to. And that's the standard. Those are the 6 standard operators that we'll use. But we're going to add a few more to tie these together, but in just a second. Okay, so now let me just go back to equal 18. That makes a little more sense. You just reach voting age. Okay, so now with the if statement, the line of code, I've been doing all cout statements, but it could be anything you want. This if statement only applies to a single line of code after the if statement. So here, if I wanted to, I'll even indent it, cout hello. This line of code right here has nothing to do with the if statement, and it shouldn't be indented. But I'll just go ahead and show you. So in this case, if we enter 20, then it didn't print you just reached voting age, but it printed hello. So hello has nothing to do with the if statement. And if that's what you're going to do, you shouldn't indent it. Don't make it look like it's part of the if statement. Okay, so once again, the if statement will only apply to the next line of code unless you put braces. Okay, so braces are a container to hold code. Let me move this back up in there. And anytime you have braces, your code in between the open and closing brace should be indented, should be tabbed over. Okay, so in this case, now we can have multiple lines of, as many lines of code as you want if this condition is true by using the braces. Now you'll find some programmers will always use braces after an if statement. I usually don't if I'm just doing one thing after an if statement just to, save some space there. So in this case now, if I enter 20, nothing, no output. But if I enter 18, then it will print both lines of code. Okay, so braces. And you can, then optionally, you can follow it with an else. So if the condition is false, then I could, I'm just going to do I'll increment age and then cout stuff. I'm just putting random stuff in here. Okay, so if this condition is true, it's going to do this. Otherwise, else, it's going to do this code right here. Okay. Now, let's go to, I'm going to simplify this stuff again. Let's look at our other operators now. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let's look at a common thing that programmers will do often, and that is else ifs. Okay, so for example, let's say that we want to print out some stuff based on, I'm just going to say you are a decade old. Okay, then I'm going to do something for 20. Okay, now you could do if age is equal to 20, and then I could see out you are 2 decades old. Then I could do the same thing for 30. If it's equal to 30, then you are 3 decades old. Okay, so this should work just the way it is. Let's see it run. So if I enter 30, you're 3 decades old. Okay, so this works just like it is. But a lot of times you will see programmers code it like this. Do an else if. And then we can do an else if. Okay, so now as opposed to just a bunch of ifs. Now, one advantage of doing this, which in a little program like this, it doesn't matter. But if you have a program that needs to execute very quickly, then this could actually save you time. Because in this case, if age is equal to 10, it will see out this, and then it's not even going to look at the stuff after the else statement. So you're done. And the same thing here. If age is 20, then it'll check that, do that comparison, then it'll do this comparison. And then if it's 20, then you're done. You're not going to do this stuff after else if. Okay, so you're going to do fewer comparisons by doing else ifs. And once again, little programs like this, it just doesn't matter. You're not going to notice any kind of time difference in that. Okay, but this is a common thing to do, and you could finish it off just with an else. If none of those conditions are true, then you could see out other stuff like that. Okay, so else ifs. So let's run it, and so see if I enter my age as 55, then it's going to do other stuff because none of these conditions were true. However, if I enter 20 for my age, then you are 2 decades old. And again, after this condition was true, it wasn't even going to look at this stuff over here. Okay, so otherwise, if you just have a bunch of ifs, well, then what you have after the else is not going to work correctly there. But in this case, it's going to test every condition, no matter, even if it was 10. It's still going to test this condition and that condition. Okay, so that's an else if. Okay, now let's look at some other operators that you will use often. Let's go. I want to say you are a teenager. Okay, so a teenager is defined as someone who is between where their age ends in a teen. So that would be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, or 19. Okay, so we need to see if this is a range inclusively between 13 and 19. Okay, we can't just say if age is greater than equal to 13, because if they're 20, that will still be true. Or we can't say if it's less than equal to 19, because if they enter 5, this will still be true. So what we need to do are both of those conditions. We need to test both of those conditions. So in that case, we can put 2 conditions. And in this case, we're going to AND them together, 2 ampersands right next to each other. If age is less than equal to 13 and age is, if age is greater than equal to 13 and age is less than equal to 19. Okay, if these two are both true, the and means they must both be true for the condition to be true, then it will output you are a teenager. So let's see it run. So if I enter 5, nothing. If I enter 22, nothing. But if I enter a number within that range, then you are a teenager. Okay, so that's the and. Okay, and another operator that we can use is or. This is and. Both of these have to be true if it's an and. If either one is false, then the condition is going to be false and it won't do that. Okay, so let's go if age is less than equal to 3, or is the 2 vertical bars right above the enter key. Linux people call those the pipe symbol. If age is less than or equal to 3 or age is greater than or equal to 90, what can we say? You're cout. You are either very young or old. So in this case, this is an or. And so with an or, if either one of these is true, then the entire condition will be true. If this one's true or that one is true, then it will be true. Okay, so let's watch it run. And so enter your age. See, if I go 2, then you're either very young or very old. If I enter 100, then you are either very young or very old. But if I enter anything in between, then no output. Okay, so that's the or. Okay, now a third operator that you will probably not use very often, but we need to show it, is the not. Just a single exclamation point. Okay, the reason you need to think twice about using it because it can make it harder to read. It's important for your code to be easy to read. So let's just say if age is equal to 20, then I'm going to cout you are 2 decades old. Okay, now I'm going to put a not in front of it, but I'm going to have to do another set of parentheses and put the not in between these two. Okay, so look at that. So the not, the exclamation point, reverses it, negates it. So if this is true, if age is equal to 20, excuse me, then that will make it false, and vice versa. Okay, so it just reverses it. And again, it's like, well, there'd be a much better way to code that, without the not. So you are not 2 decades old. So let's watch it run. So if I enter 30, it's going to say you are not 2 decades old. But if I enter 20, then it won't do anything. So that is the not right there. Okay, so, and again, that in a lot of cases that will make it more confusing. So the better way to code this would just be say if age is not equal to 20. Okay, much easier to read by doing it that way. Okay, so that's the and, or not. Now I just thought let's talk about making these things even bigger. Okay, so let's say you are a teenager if you're from 13 to 19. Well, how about if you're 113 to 119? I say you're a teenager again. Okay, that would be nice if we lived that long healthily. Okay, so let's go to do that. I'm going to put this in an extra set of parentheses right there. But then I'm going to or that with this whole thing again for 113 to 119. Right there. So the way this reads, if age is greater than or equal to 13 and age is less than or equal to 19, or age is greater than or equal to 113 and age is less than or equal to 119, then you are a teenager. Okay, so if I enter 115, then you are a teenager. You're either in you're not. Okay, so the other stuff is still, these other conditions are going too. I'm going to get rid of those. Okay, so, but if I enter something just 111, then nothing right there. Okay, so we can put more of these things together right there. And we could do if age is equal to 10, or age is equal to 20, or age is equal to 30, or age is equal to 40, then you could say, see out, your age ends in a 0. Okay, of course, we need to continue that on out. So in this case, we can put a bunch of ors together, and so only one of these must be true if you do a bunch of ors together. Okay, so if any one of those is true, the entire condition is true. Let's try it out. If I enter 30, then your age ends in a 0. Okay, so that one made it be true. Okay, and just if you're thinking, just FYI, a better way to write that, you'd have to continue that on out into 100, would be if age mod 10 is equal to 0. See, now that's going to pick up any age that ends in a 0 right there. So that would actually be a better way to write it. So now if I go 90, then your age ends in a 0. Okay, so let me think about this if I've forgotten anything. So, every programming language has a logical statement, an if statement or something like that. And so, you'll use them in virtually every program. Oh, I just thought of one other thing. Let's say that you have a condition that it's like, oh, I think something may be wrong with this condition. Maybe you have a real long condition and something may be wrong with it. Or let's say I want this condition to be true. Okay, so something's happening in my program and my condition isn't becoming true. Well, in that case, the way I would do that is, first of all, I would just do it like this. You could just put the word true as a condition, and then I'm going to comment out the rest of that line so that I'm not deleting it. So you can put the word true and false, which is 1 or 0, as your condition, and then this condition will always be true. See, if I enter 55, you are a teenager, because this will always be true. Okay, so sometimes, again, that might be used temporarily just to see what happens if that condition is true. You have some braces and a bunch of code here, and you want to see that code work, but for some reason this condition isn't becoming true. So you could do this temporarily. Okay, let's see. I think that's about all I was going to cover on the if statement. So have a great day.